There's something so eerie about walking through an area that is usually bustling with people, but is instead completely empty. Cities or towns that usually have tens of thousands of people walking through them that now appear deserted. Not a single soul in sight. This single idea has hounded my thoughts for years. Being alone in a city when there's signs of life everywhere, streetlights flickering in towering buildings, just sets you off. That lingering feeling of, there should definitely be someone else here, but I am all alone. For some, it inspires fear, or even loneliness. For others, it seems depressing. As for Brisset, well, he found it peaceful. There's a strange longing that we as people have for these so-called liminal spaces. The quiet buildings create a calming atmosphere that leaves one alone with their thoughts. There's quite possibly no better 20th century artist who captures this feeling better than Jula Halas, known by the publishing name of Brisset. Born in Transylvania in 1899, yes, that was a real place, the Hungarian-French photographer enjoyed a quiet life in his hometown. His heart yearned for more than what Transylvania could offer, however. At 25, he decided to drop everything and move to France. Brisset was quoted saying, "Paris has long attracted me as a magnet." He attributes this to Paris being the heart of Europe's art scene. Brisset wasn't wrong. Both during the day and during the night, Paris served as the perfect canvas. At night, the city turned into a foggy wasteland, sparsely lit by gas lamps. This move to Paris wasn't to pursue an artistic career, however. He moved to the City of Lights originally as a journalist, reporting for Hungarian and German newspapers with artistry being a side gig. Brisset's early years were spent learning the French language to do his job better and interviewing local artists, including one Pablo Picasso. As an immigrant, Brisset never felt like he belonged in Paris due to his immigrant status. As such, he spent countless nights walking Paris alone in the dark, not a soul in sight but himself. Brisset always had artistic talent, but he never used a camera as his paintbrush. In 1930, after living in Paris for 6 years without taking a single photograph, he finally had enough. Brisset felt that Paris's nighttime beauty was too mysterious not to capture, and, inspired by his friend André Coretz, he finally bought a Voigtlander camera. Within months of purchasing his camera, Brisset began experimenting. You see, Brisset didn't have the luxury of a modern iPhone with night modes or After Effects magic. In his world, night photography was something the camera simply wasn't built to do. So, naturally, he pushed the limits. He used long exposures, letting his camera sit on custom-built tripods for minutes at a time, while faint streetlight halos, drifting fog, and reflections on slick pavement were burnt into an image. In 1933, Brisset published what would become his most famous work, a book titled Paris de Nuit, or Paris by Night. This book was a collection of pictures of, as the title might suggest, Paris at night. As cliché as it might sound, this book showed everyone a side to Paris they never imagined could exist. Instead of the touristy, bustling city that they knew and loved, they instead saw a fog-covered alleyway and damp streets without a soul in sight. This side of Paris felt almost forbidden to lay your eyes on, like a hidden dark side of a bright star. Civilians and the most famous artists in Paris alike were stunned. The city suddenly had a second life. Critics described it as a new way of seeing. Brisset was tens of years ahead of his time, creating pictures that blew all sorts of night photography out of the water and single-handedly caused an influx of camera development to better capture the nighttime aesthetic. Emptiness was no longer going to be viewed as a waste of space, dull, or even boring. Emptiness has its own unique story that only Brisset could bring out. This was revolutionary. Nobody had really photographed the night as it truly looked. Empty, quiet, and full of atmosphere. Before Brisset, nighttime photos were staged or artificially lit. Brisset broke that barrier. He made darkness visible. He turned empty streets into emotional landscapes. And, in doing so, he became the progenitor of every liminal, surreal, and eerie urban photo that we see today. I'm sure most people today can recognize these photos. Maybe you've even seen them before, or maybe they just feel familiar. Every single one of these photos can be traced back to a single photographer in Paris in the 1930s. The feeling of urban loneliness when we are surrounded by life is so unique because it's a feeling that transcends cultural barriers and time itself. We can see today's artists mimicking Brisset's revolutionary techniques, the long exposure, the reflections in deep walkways, even the silent city atmosphere. I find it quite ironic how we all feel so together on the topic of feeling alone at night. Traveling to my home state of Delaware one early morning, I got to experience exactly what Brisset did. As I exited Boston's North Station to walk to South Station one early November morning, I noticed that I was, in fact, alone. You see, many people are confined to their daily routines, waking up at 8, going home from work at 6, going to sleep and repeating the next day. To break from this cycle means to experience Boston from a completely different perspective. Just as Brisset perceived Paris as an empty shell, so did I perceive Boston from across the Atlantic. Streets that would normally have taxis honking and pedestrians talking loudly on their phones fell instead silent and still. The dark fall morning was only illuminated by a bright moon and flickering streetlights. In my opinion, Brisset hit the nail on the head. I've never felt more peace and calmness than being alone in the city of Boston. Any one of us can go outside tonight and experience what it was like to be Brisset in the 1930s. Who knows? Maybe you'll find yourself capturing the night's beauty as well.